All right, let's go to the questions from our beloved audience instead of politics. It's going to be a completely different issue with them. Starting with Mr. Anderson in Malmo, Sweden. Word is in Kiev, or Kyiv, as some are wont to say, that the UA Patriot system emptied 30 missiles in under 2 minutes, only to reduce the damage when the incoming Kazal missile hits. Indeed, it seemed panicky on the videos. Is that the routine? And in general, what is your take on this situation? There are some conflicting reports on whether or not the air defense system stopped every single missile, whether or not some damage was done to the air defense system. What can you tell us? What is the real deal?
Well, again, I'm in Volgograd, and the Patriot system in question is in Kiev. What appears to be happening here is that the Patriot system is set on automatic mode, which is the default mode for people who aren't well trained. The United States, more often than not, will operate in manual mode, given the complexity and the sensitivity of the Patriot system. When it's in automatic mode, basically the computer does all the thinking, and here what appears to have happened is you have an incoming threat or threats, multiple threats, and the radar picks it up, and the fire control system takes over, and it starts popping off missiles. And the closer the threat comes, the more urgent the response is. And basically the Patriot dumped its load. It basically fired off all 30 missiles and then got taken out, which shows you I've written about this before. You don't want to give Patriots to the Ukrainians. It takes a long time to learn how to use this system and to use it right. It appears they did some shortcuts too. Normally, you wouldn't have 30 missiles linked to a single fire control station. You'll have maybe 3 pods of 12 missiles linked to that. But it sounds like they basically put in a fire control station and then concentrated launchers in that area, and that's just stupid too, because now you put all your eggs in one basket, and the Russians found where the system is, and the Russians launched an attack, and the attack couldn't be stopped, and the Patriot system was either destroyed heavily or damaged. We don't know. It's out of operation now. Plus, just think about the waste of the missiles. I mean, 30 missiles, $1.5 million each or more, pop, gone, zam. And this is going to happen with every modern system we give the Ukrainian army. It takes time to train. I'm not saying the Ukrainian troops are stupid. I'm not saying they're incapable of being trained, but you couldn't take an American, soldier straight out of, wherever, who's never operated the Patriot system, and rapidly train them and throw them into combat against the most advanced, lethal weapons of the Patriot missiles ever going to face, the Kinzhal missile, and expect it to do well. The Ukrainians simply cannot use this system properly, and that's proof positive. They employed it wrong, and now it's gone. But that's the war in a nutshell. The Ukrainians biting off more than they can chew. I mean, these guys fight hard. Again, coming back to Volgograd, half the names on the wall are Ukrainian names. I mean, they're the same people. I know I'm going to piss off a lot of Ukrainians when I say this, but they're the same people. I don't know if I told you the story last time about Wagner fighting in Bakhmut, and they surrounded a bunch of Ukrainian soldiers, and they were asking them to surrender. And the Ukrainians responded, "Russians don't surrender." That's a statement that comes from World War II. That's a statement made by a 21-year-old soldier on the front line when the Germans surrounded him. He said, "Russians don't surrender," and they killed him. These are Russians fighting Russians. I mean, bottom line. I mean, the Western Ukraine we can make an exception for, because that's different historically, culturally, religion, etc. But for the most part, the Ukrainians are Russians. There's a Russian saying, you rub a Russian and you get a Ukrainian, because they're the same people, and that's what makes this all the more tragic.
Horatio D., North America. Tell us if you found something new or different you have learned about the Russian people now that you've been there after so many years and with a different mission.
I mean, first of all, I'm still trying to incorporate all that I'm learning and seeing. But you know, when I came here back in the 1980s, late 1980s, there was something that was called Homo Sovieticus, basically the Soviet man, the new Soviet man, and the without exception, the people that I worked with were all born in the Soviet Union, raised in the Soviet Union, raised in the Soviet Union. There might have been some elderly women at church or something that you know, that were born during the time of the Tsar, but for the most part, the people that I was working with were people who were born during Soviet times, and so they were molded in the vision of the Soviet Union. And that was my you know, point of reference when talking about, you know, the Russian people, et cetera, Soviet people. You know, Soviet Union's gone, and today Russia's there. And what I'm finding out is that what I called Homo Sovieticus was really just the Russian. You know, they were told to suppress religion, but as again I mentioned in Vodkens, the House of Culture is being turned into a church. All throughout Russia, you see this revival of faith, and not faith of, you know, blind faith, you know, or total faith, but the role of the Orthodox Church as part of Russian culture is real. And even if they don't go to church every day, they have a church in their neighborhood, in their community they can look up to, see the golden domes. It's part of their soul, and you see that. You see that that this was always there, and so, you know, I think I'm, and then the contrast between, I guess, the resentment of some of the Soviet times, and in particular Gorbachev, who's not well loved here at all. That's why they renamed my book. They call it Disarmament Race instead of Disarmament at the Time of Perestroika, because that word perestroika is not something that resonates well with most Russians. But you know, this is a nation of great complexity, great diversity, and I'm trying to recalibrate my brain to move away from, I guess, the prejudices and preconceived notions I had when I considered it as part of the Soviet Union, and to you know, understanding what Russia is today. And I think I'm on the right direction, but you know, it's a work in progress. You know, things that most Americans, when we talk about religion and we say, okay, Orthodoxy. Oh, forget it, a lot of Muslims in Russia. A lot of Muslims in Russia. I just came from Kazan, Tatarstan, where the population is probably, you know, I mean, it's over 50% are Muslims. I'll probably be heading to Chechnya, to Grozny, and again, predominantly Muslim country, but the relations between the Muslim people and the Russian government is tight. I mean, good, strong. They are, even though they're Muslims, even though they're Chechens or Tatars, they're part of the Russian Federation. They're part of this. So Russia is complex, very, very complex. But they share the same history. It's not like separate people. It's not like, you know, you say, okay, well, the Russians and this. Kazan is a mixed city. I mean, it's got, you know, the Orthodox and it's got the Muslim traditions. The people live side by side. They marry all the time. They're just, I mean, they are. It's a mixed city that is totally blended. I mean, America keeps talking about how we want to be the melting pot. And what I'm seeing here is literally the book on how to do melting pot right. You know, there's no Muslim ghettos. There's no, you know, people looking at them saying, "Oh, those are," you know, no, they get along well. They have a shared history, shared values, And again, one of the things that unites them is is World War II. For people who reject communism, reject Lenin, reject Gorbachev, World War II unites them. I mean, that's the one of the things that they all have in common. Every family lost somebody in this war. Every family lost somebody in this war, and it unites them. That's why, again, Victory Day is not a joke. It's not a propaganda exercise. When I see American politicians and Europeans, downplaying the Victory Day is just Putin's propaganda. He's just doing a military parade just to be Putin and strong and a dictator. I'm like, stick it in your, what, because no, it's real. It's visceral.
Well, speaking of hardship and rising above hardship, overcoming it, I'm pleased to report that it looks like Anne has her electricity back.
Yay. Go American infrastructure.
There she is. This is our version of hardship, being without power. For how long, Anne? An hour?
No, like 6 hours.
Oh, 6 hours. All right. Well, pretty soon we'll have to send in rations for you.
It's bad.
All right. So some of the folks are complaining about the translator from your last event, and whatever. What are you going to do?
Well, let me say this. Let me say this about this. Some of these events were put together literally at the last minute for security reasons. I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but on Victory Day, Moscow was attacked by Ukraine. They flew at least 3 drones, maybe more, in an effort to strike Moscow. It didn't work. The Russians shot them all down. But the Russian security service is arresting Ukrainian saboteurs and agent provocateurs on a daily basis throughout Russia. The Ukrainian head of Ukrainian intelligence service just came out and bragged, yeah, we blew up the bridge. Yeah, we attacked the Kremlin. Yeah, this is what we do. We're going to continue doing it. Zelensky just went ape shit, excuse my language, the other day. Kill Russians everywhere, kill them everywhere, kill them everywhere. And so it's a real deal. It's not, I don't want to overplay it. I mean, I've never felt more safe in my life than here in Russia, but they take it seriously. They take security seriously. And so in many cases, these events are organized literally at the last minute. And getting professional quality translators sometimes is a challenge. So what they do, and this is why I get pissed off when people say they're mad at, I understand you want perfect translation. These guys reached out to in many cases to teachers. Their daily job isn't professional simultaneous translation. They're teachers who work, they teach English, and they have a competency in the English language, but not listening to Scott Ritter speak Mach 5 using slang and treaty unique words. I mean, my God.
And doing it on the fly. Doing it on the fly too.
Doing it on the fly. So cut the ladies a break. I mean, I'm deeply appreciative that these were, you weren't sitting next to them as I was. The fear. These women were scared to death. They were trying their best to do something, but it's not what they do for a living. And I mean, to see their hands shake like this next to you, I mean, so cut them a break, okay? Please, guys, put yourself, you want to see what fear looks like in language? I just did an interview. They just published it. I filmed it a while ago with Channel 1, which is the big national channel. And I know how the ladies feel because I was supposed to have an interpreter in my ear when thank God this wasn't a live broadcast. And it didn't work. It didn't work. And so the lady who was interviewing me started interviewing me in Russian. And she wanted me to respond in Russian. My eyes were just like a deer in a headlight. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And she's sitting there talking to me in Russian, and I'm trying to respond in Russian, and it wasn't working at all. So, everybody's like, oh, you did fine. No, I didn't. So just imagine all you guys out there who think you speak a language, I speak this, I speak that, I speak this, I speak that. Okay, sit next to me and translate simultaneously into that language on the fly without any preparation. You don't even get to read the book. It's like, hey, you teach English? Yeah. Come here, we got a job for you. Sit down here. Who's this? This is the guy who's going to sit here and ramble in American colloquialisms for the
I
next
know
hour and a half.
you're like the king of metaphors. So if you're using even
sitting there-
50% of what you usually do, is like what? Marine
and so,
mat
you
and odious and
odious. And I mean, I'm just
a
sitting there
simple Marin. You're
rolling.
dumber than dirt.
Dumber than dirt. She's like, how dumb is dirt? Dirt is dumb. I mean, no. So please cut these people a break. I have nothing but.
All right, well, let me tell you, there's an
warmth.
exception, though. A very nice woman named Anna Yerpolova went to see you in Moscow, and she was not at all speaking disparagingly of the translator, but she did explain to me in a couple of emails that the question wasn't quite translated accurately, and therefore you didn't answer the question that she actually asked. So I invited her to send a recording, and so we now have an audio recording, and she would like an opportunity to ask the question that she was trying to ask, and she's going to say it in English.
Hi guys. In Moscow, an interpreter didn't translate accurately my question. So, as a result, Scott answered a slightly different question. I know that the Western establishment is not afraid of Russia as such, but Scott, don't you think they see a threat in the friendship and even in partnership between American and Russian people? After all, our common values, our desire for justice and freedom, for the power of the people and for the people, creates a direct threat to the power of the oligarchic elites. And they actually realized this back in 1917, starting to spread the rise extreme Russophobia to separate us, our nations, and to prevent our rapprochement. What do you think about that? And by the way, I also want to say thank you so much for your autograph and for your wonderful book and for your honesty. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Okay, the question. You know, if we go, she brought back 1917, which brings back, you know, memories of John Reed, an American. He's the only American, by the way, who's buried in the Kremlin. He wrote 10 Days That Shook the World. And of course, I'm colored somewhat by Warren Beatty's portrayal of him in the classic movie Reds. But an interesting part in that movie, and I checked up on it, it relates well to history, is the suppression of the unions, of unionizing, of organized labor back in in those times. And John Reed and others were the American Communist Party, the socialists were trying to organize create unions to organize labor, and they're being violently suppressed. And what John Reed and others were doing was reaching out across the waters into Russia, into Bolshevik controlled Russia, because they viewed them as fellow socialist people who were supporting labor movements, etc. And I think that's the beginning of what Anya's talking about, which is the suppression of any effort by Americans and Russians to work in a collaborative fashion outside of the control of their respective governments. You even see in when John Reed is in the Soviet Union, the newly formed Soviet Union, he goes to Baku, and which is in Azerbaijan, and there's a giant conference about the peoples of the East, and he's trying to give a speech, but it wasn't interpreted properly because the Soviets weren't comfortable with what he was saying, so they were manipulating him as well. So it's a two-way street sometimes. I imagine sometimes I say things here on this tour, and I'm on live TV, live radio, and I'm sure I say things that make the Russian government cringe at times. They're like, You know, that's, you know, it's okay. But the point is, she's right. There's been a concerted effort to control relationships between the peoples of the United States and Russia, especially on the part of the United States. Look, I haven't checked this out, so I'm not going to sit here and say this is 100% true, but it sounds true. The Biden administration, the State Department threatened to revoke the passports of World War II veterans who were talking about flying to Russia to be there for Victory Day. You know, which is where every American soldier should be on May 9th. If you're not going to have you know, a Victory in Europe Day celebration, why don't we anymore? Why don't we celebrate the common defeat of the odious Nazi ideology? I threw in odious because people keep like to hear that word.
Odious.
But there, but the you know, if we're not going to respect our own history, at least respect theirs. I mean, they listen to Putin's speech. Again, I know, oh, Scott, you're really into Putin. Well, I just listen to him. I mean, that's the thing. He speaks, I listen. There's no animosity. There's no bitterness. There's no anger when he speaks about his former World War II allies. In fact, he always says, we appreciate the sacrifice. We appreciate, you know, the camaraderie. We want to have good relations. We respect what they did. Victory Day is not just a Russian day. I mean, it's a big Russian day, but it's a day to celebrate, you know, an alliance that defeated Nazi Germany. And why we don't have American troops marching in that parade side by side with the Russians is beyond me. But you know, so yeah, Anya's onto something. There's, I mean, we don't know yet what the repercussions of this trip will be. Hopefully none. Hopefully the American government will recognize it for what it is, which is a genuine effort at citizen, you know, being a citizen ambassador. I mean, we should want every American to travel the world and be an ambassador of their country, to meet people and put America in a positive light and try to better relations. Government of the people, by the people, for the people. We should never forget that. We are the government, we the people of the United States of America. And so we're the best representatives of our government. Just keep in mind too, I ask people to remember this. We elect a president every 4 years. Sometimes they stay in for 8 years, but oftentimes during that period, they swap out cabinet members. Secretary of States, you know, flop all the time. People say, Scott, you're not the Secretary of State. No, I'm an American citizen. The Secretary of State is in a temporary position, you know, because they're going to leave their job eventually. Somebody else is going to come in. I'm forever, at least until they put me 6 feet into the ground. And so I will decide how I want to represent my country. I will decide what the face of America should be. I am the face of America. Jeff, you're the face of America. Everybody here is face. And that face is different. That's the beauty of being an American. We're a diverse society. We're not a homogeneous people who walk in lockstep. We each have individual feelings and desires and wants and representations. And we should be taking this out and showing it to the world, sharing it with the world. That's what a citizen diplomat is. And for the U.S. government to fear this is wrong. But again, government of the people, by the people, for the people. Government works for me. The government works for you. I don't work for them. I'm not going to pretend that I can negotiate on behalf of the United States. I can't. But I can represent the United States. I can say, here's an American. This is what an American looks like. This is what an American thinks. And the beauty of it is there could be another American next to me who says, yeah, he's American, but so am I. And I think differently than he does. I have a different point of view. That's wonderful. And this is what we should be, you know, taking, you know, abroad and then also listening to people. You know, we want people to understand us. Imagine, you know, the same things when we're trying to express who we are to people. You know, people say, we don't like Americans. Well, wait a minute, we're not that bad. We'd like to explain who we are. Imagine the Russian nation sitting there every morning hearing about how, you know, Americans downplay them, castigate them, denigrate them, etc. Imagine how much they want to say, hey, we're Russians. And that's what I'm getting here. The absolute desire of the Russian people to be understood, just to say, hey, this is who we are. And you're like, wow, you guys are pretty cool.
Yeah, well, we're up against a lot. You know, Donald Trump did a CNN town hall, I think it was about a week ago, and the moderator was asking him who he's rooting for in this war. And she kept pushing him at it and saying it in such a way that she expected him to say that he's rooting for Ukraine. Do you think he said it?
I don't think he said he's rooting for Ukraine.
This is what he said.
I want everybody to stop dying. They're dying.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
But the way she was saying it was clear that, you know, she expected, and, you know, therefore the audience probably expected. That's what you're supposed to think.
Yeah. Well, again, the theme that comes out more and more in this journey and talking to Russians is that they view this conflict as a civil war, and even the most vehement Russian patriots, and I'm surrounded by them, the level of patriotism is real. Again, I took some train. I was on trains, and we got off at a intermediate train stop between Yekaterinburg and Izhevsk, and another train pulled in next to us, and in the car, people got off. They had about a 10-minute, 15-minute, so they come out to smoke and all that. It was the one car was full of 50 guys heading off to the front, going to war, and you know, they came off, and I was able to go talk to them. You know, one of the guy I talked to was in his 40s. He had served in the Marines, Russian Marines, early on, and he basically told his wife that he can't sit at home and watch this on TV anymore. He has to go do something. He tried to go back in the Marines, and they said, "You're too old." And he tried to join another service, and they said, "Yeah, you had a heart attack a couple years ago. We can't go home." He wouldn't take that. He finally went, and he signed up as a volunteer, and they took him. I don't think he's gonna be on the front line, but he's going to be serving his nation in conflict, and surrounded by other guys that are doing this. Guys that were just sitting at home watching what's going on TV, saying, "No, I can't sit here and watch this." They go, when we got off the train in Kazan, we heard again, "Oorah, oorah," that noise. It was the families and friends of about 40 guys from Kazan who were heading off to the conflict, and they were all gathered at the train station, seeing them off, and saying goodbye to them. Every place you go, right across the street here is a center for the donation of humanitarian goods, and they collect the stuff here, and then they put together convoys that drive to the Donbass to distribute to these goods. Each place in the Donbass, each region has been given to districts in Russia who sponsor them, and so they have teams of people in there rebuilding the villages, getting electrical lines back up, putting the gas in, getting books and educational materials together for the students. This is again, the level of patriotism is unbelievable. Yes, in some big cities, you go and you take a look and you see people who are totally out of touch. I mean, Moscow, beautiful city, I love it. But you just take a look at half of the Muscovites, and they could care less about the war. They're just walking around wearing fancy clothes and driving fancy cars and living fancy lifestyles. But that's what happens in America too. We have guys off fighting, and half of America doesn't care, doesn't know, doesn't think about them. But there's the further you get away from Moscow and St. Petersburg, we talk about East Coast, West Coast, being blue, and then the middle of America is all red. The average working class, well, your average working class Russian is deeply patriotic, and those are the people that were in the trains. These are guys that were, at home, not living the great life, working like we all do, and they just said, "No, I got to go serve my country," because this war, and that's the other thing that people don't understand, because this war is being seen as a civil war that's being driven by outside powers. More and more Russians are rallying to the cause. There's a lot of, I think, anxiety early on because they didn't understand what was going on, why they had to go to war, etc. But now it's become quite clear to them. As I said, Russia's on the right side of history, and the Russians are people who study history and appreciate history, and they're waking up. And again, the last thing we want is for the modern day incarnation of Mother Russia to raise her sword and say, let's go. All right. We keep pushing these people. That's going to happen.
All right. Well, you said earlier you didn't want it to be all about politics tonight. So here's a question that might interest you. Ekaterina from Novosibirsk. Do you have any favorite Russian dishes? What food do you prefer on this trip? Russian, European, Chinese, or others? Did you eat Tatar Monty in Kazan? Have you made any culinary discoveries? Share your feelings about the culinary diversity of this beautiful country.
Well, it is culinary diversity. But Ekaterina, I've been eating Russian food for my entire life. My wife is Georgian, and she, and I worked in Vodkinsk and such. So, and we go to Russian restaurants. So, you'd be hard pressed to throw something at me that I wasn't aware of. What I can say though is that she brought up Tatar Monty. I did go to a Tatar restaurant, and there was literally stuff on the table. I didn't want to ask what it was, but it was good. I know I was
or something?
No. Horse. I think it was something there was there. And Americans don't normally eat horse. It was delicious. But they, the food is outstanding. As you travel around the country, the other thing I've learned is that a borscht can be made in different ways. And so, as you go Far East, they'll have, the borscht will be presented slightly different, et cetera. But no, the food is outstanding. The Russians are finally learning how to cook steak. I'll say that. I've been to a couple steakhouses, and you wouldn't have, if you'd gone to a steakhouse in the Soviet times, you would have a hard time recognizing what they gave you as steak. First of all, the Russians don't like red meat. I like their meat well done. But so getting a Russian to acknowledge that maybe the medium is the way they want to eat a steak as opposed to well done is
medium rare.
Well, they don't like medium rare. I like a medium rare, but they don't understand that much pink. So but they no, the food is outstanding. Unfortunately I've been eating a lot of it, and I'm putting on a little bit of weight. You can probably tell. But I'll get back home and go on a salad diet. But I am not going to opt out of the cuisine while I'm here, because it is delicious. It's everywhere I go, there's a little twist, a little nuance to the preparation of the food.
One of our regulars, Jackie Le Chevalier in Argentina. I come in good faith. Don't throw a shoe at me. I understand your argument about Russia's escalation management strategy. However, the West keeps taking Russia's self-restraint for granted. I don't trust the West to be the ones deciding where to stop to avoid World War III. Do you think we might get to the point where it'll be too late for Russia to manage anything? And do not throw a shoe at Jackie, whatever you do.
I'm telling you, Jackie, don't tempt me. No.